I just want to start off by saying that I think pets are great. They have the ability to bring so much joy into your life, as well as destruction and crap. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still better than dealing with other people and their crap. So it's totally worth it. Most of the animators I know have had some pet of some kind. Think Jaden with her Ari, James and his many pets, and Tabs, who may have had a rooster. And I too have had my fair share of pets, including a goldfish. His name was Michael. Michael was huge. But as you could probably tell by the title, I am not here to talk about such common stuff. Unfortunately, I was deprived of the experience to have such pets like dogs, cats, or birds. Not necessarily because my parents didn't let me have them. Well, actually that too, they didn't let me have any. But mostly because I was allergic. So me plus fur resulted in me having red puffy eyes, uncontrollable sneezing, and a bad rash. I came upon this discovery when I was really young and I was riding a horse at my friend's birthday party. Mom, this is pretty fun, but I don't feel so good. So I guess in a way, that automatically makes me not a furry. Badoom-ching. Being allergic to fur and most likely feathers as well pretty much crossed off all the typical pets I could have, which led me to some interesting alternatives. First off, I'm curious. Is it still a common thing for parents to give their children rocks as their first pet? I mean, I guess it makes sense. Before you can handle something more complex and more alive, you have to start off simple. So, a rock. You feed it, you take it for walks, you play with it. Well, luckily for me, instead of a rock, I had one of those wooden turtles that always agreed with what you're saying, and I named him Skip. He's actually still here because, turtles, they can live a long time. But fake turtles, they live even longer.
Hey, Skip. Isn't K-pop one of the greatest gifts in the entire universe? Yeah, that's what I thought.
None of my other pets would ever be as understanding as Skip. So after gaining valuable experience from taking care of Skip, it was time to move on to something a bit more alive, yet not something as complex as, say, a goldfish. So I got a plant. But not just any plant, a baby Christmas tree. In my elementary school, we would take a field trip to a local Christmas tree farm and we were each given a baby tree to bring home. Every year that happened, the tree died. I was never able to grow it into an actual tree that could be used for Christmas. Either I gave it too much water or I didn't give it enough. So if anyone succeeded in growing one of those trees, just know, I am very impressed. So you would think by now that I would have learned that I did not have a green thumb, right? Ha! Nope! Several years later, I moved on to something more carnivorous. So those carnivorous plants, the plants that can eat insects? Yeah, I decided to have some of those because I thought that they were cool. A Venus flytrap that I named Carnivine, and a pitcher plant that I named Victory Bell. If you didn't catch on by now, this was a time that I was very much so into Pokemon. Feeding the Venus flytrap was more fun, since you could actually see it close and stuff on its prey. Because the pitcher plant didn't do anything. It just let the bug sit there in its belly juice slowly dissolving. Hurry up and chew your food, Victory Bell! Anyways, they had a tragic ending. I left them out in a California summer sun one day, and I forgot to bring them back inside. And they were pretty much burned to a crisp. After that experience, I never had any more plants as pets. Ever again. Until one day, I'm just kidding, I'm not pulling that. I could just see the wave of comments rolling in from that statement. As young people, I'm sure we've all had those dream pets that we all wish we had. A common question related to this is, if you could have any creature as a pet, what would you pick? Some wish they had a tiger. I think someone on Twitter said they wanted a pangolin or something. I don't know. I would have either wanted a shark or a dragon. But I mean, obviously, I have to think about this realistically, so... Of course, they're gonna be expensive and difficult to take care of, so maybe a tame dragon would be better. As a kid, I just imagined I would have this giant fish tank, like those huge ones at aquariums, and my spare time after doing homework, I would just go swimming with my pet shark and I would rub its belly. And I would name it Steve. I guess I would have also wanted an orca as a pet because they're like my other favorite sea creature, but I think people would look down upon that nowadays, hence the whole blackfish thing, so maybe not. Rayquaza or Tropius, that would be cool. Or a blue-eyed white dragon. Yeah, anyways, enough of this fantasy stuff. I just wanted to mention that if I had a choice, I would have chosen one of those. Besides, I think the closest you can get to a fantasy pet is a virtual one, like back in the day when Tamagotchis were a thing. I didn't have any of those, but I did have several Neopets. I mean, who didn't? That was like the jam. Flotsam was my choice, of course, but that was only because I couldn't get a Jetsam, okay? And I didn't know that there are ways to get one until I looked it up just now as I was writing this script. Oh, now I'm so tempted. Chances are, though, all my Flotsams are dead, and I don't even remember my password, so we're moving on. So after completely failing at raising plants, I got those pets that come in a box and you just put in the water and then you watch them grow. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about sea monkeys and triops, baby. Nothing much to say about the sea monkeys, though. They were like really small and you couldn't even watch them eat stuff, so the triops were definitely an upgrade from sea monkeys. For one thing, they were much bigger and you could actually watch them nibble at these pellet things you gave them. And they also looked really cool. Well, compared to a sea monkey. I named the biggest one Joey, and I liked Joey. So I was really sad when he died. I'll tell you one thing I don't miss. I don't miss the smell. Because somehow these shrimp things could stink up the whole tank. They shed a lot too, so every day I was pretty much removing like all the shedded skin they left behind. And oh, that's not shedded skin. I forgot to mention they don't live very long. If you don't know this about me yet, then you should know that I like creepy crawlies, with the exception of cockroaches and some spiders, mostly the ones that can kill me. But aside from those, I'm pretty cool with having some as pets. One that I thought was like really cool was known as the antlion, or in scientific terms, the mermelon today? Mermaid, eh? Antlions. I was lucky enough to have 3, all of which were named Trapinch because I couldn't tell them apart. They all look the same. But the reason I think that they are so cool is, besides the way that they look, is the way they catch their prey. The antlion. These ferocious beasts would dig these pits in the sand, and they lay waiting at the bottom with their serrated jaws wide open. And when the unsuspecting prey, usually an ant, comes by, the antlion would flick sand to make the ant fall into the pit. The antlion would then grab the helpless prey and drag it beneath the sand to devour its victim. Not a trace is left in sight. Yeah, I give it a shot. One of my Trapinches didn't even dig a pit. They just waited underneath the sand, so it was like impossible to tell where it was. Are you still alive? But then you'd be watching an ant crawling by and then suddenly, bam, it just gets pulled under the sand. Man, they're so cool. That's just the larva. Then they quote unquote evolve into adults or vibrava, and then they live for like a day and then they die. That's why you only want the larva, because adults, they're just boring. They just die. It really just goes to show that it sucks to grow into an adult. I'm seeing a trend in the pets that I had. If you thought those were scary, ha! Those were nothing compared to this big dude, my camel spider. Let's all take a moment to acknowledge that Big Dude truly has such a beautifully horrifying face. Fun fact, they're actually called many things. Sun spiders, wind scorpions, or... forget it. I found him wandering around in my house and I decided to keep him. As you can see, he has these really cool jaws to eat his food, and yeah, definitely was a very messy eater. But unfortunately, as bizarre and exotic as he was, did he make a good pet? No, not really. I didn't even have a great story about him, I just wanted to mention him really quick. And lastly, I want to introduce my 2 scorpions, Sonic and Barkus. Sonic was my gigantic 7-inch emperor scorpion, and Barkus was my stubborn and tiny bark scorpion. So you see where I got the name from? I got Sonic as a Christmas present from my uncle, and Sonic actually escaped its cage in my uncle's house before he was supposed to give it to me. So for like an hour or 2, my uncle was looking all over his house for this huge scorpion. Definitely was a present I was not expecting. Mom wasn't too happy about him though. But ironically, I got Barkus from my mom. One day she found him in our house and she thought it was one of my fake plastic scorpion toys, because I do have those. I'm just glad she didn't try to pick it up because, you know, Barkus was a little bit more alive than my toys, and I'm sure that stinger's not gonna feel very good. It was definitely more lethal than Sonic's. At least for me, it's definitely not every day you come home from a long day of school and your mom suddenly tells you, hey, we got a scorpion. But I didn't have Barkus for very long, not necessarily because he died, but it was mostly because he was really picky with his food. and I became worried that he might starve to death, so I decided to release him back into the mountains. I hope you live well, Marcus. Sonic was a good scorpion, though. I would take him out of his cage and put him in a cardboard box, and I would give him pom-poms to play with. I was getting attached to Sonic. But then all of a sudden, I noticed that Sonic was acting weird. He wasn't eating, he just stayed in his cave all day, until one day I found out Sonic had babies. Sonic was a girl. So you're not a he. Well, that's pretty neat. Good memories. Sonic was a part of our lives for about 2-3 years, but finally she passed away shortly after having her babies, which was actually okay, because if she lived any longer, she would have eaten the babies. Welcome to the Scorpion Kingdom, everyone. Instead of burying her to become worm chow, I decided to preserve her in a tub of salt. And here she is to this day. And that's it. Those are the pets that I remember having as a kid. And of course, I'm not saying that these make better pets than dogs or cats or whatever. I mean, obviously, when I'm feeling down, I can't just cuddle up next to my scorpion to make me feel better. She'll just sting my face. But regardless, I am still grateful to all of them because they still made my life much more interesting. There was one creature that I haven't even talked about yet, one that I was attached and had for several years. It was and still is my absolute favorite, but that's an entire video in itself. Did you have any interesting pets? Well, be sure to tell me in the comments below. Yeah, but in all seriousness, before you should get any pet, unless if it's a rock, you should always do your research on how to properly take care of them and whether they're legal, because that's pretty important. Yeah. So apparently my dad told me that we actually did have Tamagotchis. It's just that he put them in a safe and left it there before I could play with it. Deprived childhood, am I right? I want to keep this end card short because this was a beast to create. I think it's like the longest on this channel like ever. But anyways, thank you guys so much for the 100K. That is completely insane, and it's really cool that it happened during my birthday month. So yay, happy birthday to me. That'll be it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay young.